Welcome into the Buckeye Blitz on Fanstream Sports, powered by DSP Media. My name's Jeff Thidoff. They call me Tito. You can follow me on Twitter at ThitHappens, and we'll get follow me there. I'll follow you back and all that. We've put all the podcasts out. Thank you for tuning in. Like, listen, subscribe, all that jazz here on the Fanstream Sports Network. Fanstream Sports, powered by the DSP Media podcast network. So 49 days until Ohio State, Indiana, 42 until the start of the college football season. And we've done a lot of positive things about Ohio State recruiting. They have missed out on a couple of guys that they had their eye on. One was Xavier Brown, cornerback out of California. He had the Buckeyes in his final three, along with, I think, Alabama and USC were the two. And Brown took, he's a 6 foot, 180-pound corner. He took Alabama in the end, and that's where he's going. So, it would have been nice for Ohio State to get him, but the Ohio State's fine recruiting-wise in 2024. We'll talk about that in a minute. They also lost out on a 5-star wide receiver. They were recruiting Josiah Trader from down in Florida, joined the Hurricanes. He's a number 11 overall recruit, and he is 6 foot 180 pounds. And he had Ohio State, Miami. He had both the other schools, Florida and Florida State, and also Alabama, among others, on his list. So the Buckeyes miss out. I'll talk about the Buckeyes, who they've gotten lately, but I'm not worried about this. Look, they still have Jeremiah Smith, who is now the number one prospect, according to some outlets, in the 2024 class, passing former Buckeye commit Dylan Raiola, the quarterback, who is playing in the state of Georgia and then headed to Georgia also. But he's the 2024 class. So Jeremiah Smith, the top-rated player right now, according to some of the scouting networks. He is a 5-star wide receiver coming to Ohio State. They still have Justin Scott, the 5-star defensive lineman out of Illinois, St. Ignatius, Illinois. They got Milan Graham, the 5-star wide receiver. Also another they got in there. So they're fine. And just Aaron Nolan, who we're excited about. And they've done well with the defense. Also, the cornerbacks, they got Bryce West out of Cleveland Glenville. So they're fine on that right there. There's still some guys they have their eyes on. So it's not like sky is falling situation for Ohio State football just because they missed out on a couple of recruits they had their eyes on. And good luck to those players out there where they're going, headed out to Miami and Alabama. But Ohio State still will have the best wide receiver room in the country again this year and next year, in my opinion. And Ohio State's just fine there. Brian Hartline's just fine, and they're doing a great job, along with Jim Knowles on the defensive side of the ball. Okay, so FanDuel came out with some odds for some of the Week 1 games, and just wanted to the college football games. I wanted to go through some of the ones involving Ohio State that are out there. Like I told you, we're 49 days away by the time you get this from Ohio State against Indiana. That's a road game in the Big Ten for Ohio State in Bloomington. And the Buckeyes are favored by 27.5 points over Indiana there. When they take on Notre Dame, they are 8.5-point favorites. I think it's a 27-point favorites over Indiana in the road. 8.5-point favorites at Notre Dame. When they host Penn State, Ohio State is a 10.5-point favorite. When they host Michigan State in that night game, November 11th in the Horseshoe, the rare November night game for Ohio State at hosting Michigan State that day, 24.5. They are a 1-point underdog to Michigan. And I've done a deep dive on this. I've looked through things. And, I got Phil Steele's magazine also and looked at that. And the more I look at it, Michigan should be, I hate to say this, Michigan should be considered the favorite to win the Big Ten because they have an easier schedule than Ohio State. They've got a returning quarterback. They also have a dynamic running back room there. Although it's not as deep as Ohio State's, their 1-2 punch out there with Corbin Edwards is still very good. And they get to play Ohio State at home. Now, I still think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten. I still believe Ohio State will beat Michigan. But right now, to sit here in July, I understand why there's a lot of publications, a lot of prognosticators out there that believe that Michigan is going to win the Big Ten. I get it. I have a feeling, though. I just think that Ohio State, I think they're going to make a huge leap defensively in the second year under Jim Knowles with some of the transfers they brought in. And the fact that they have the best wide receiver in football, in the deepest running back room in football. I still think Ohio State's going to win the Big Ten, but I understand why some people believe Michigan is going to win the Big Ten. And look, Michigan's got a much easier schedule, and they get the Buckeyes at home. That's the difference. I fully expect Michigan and Ohio State to both be undefeated. Ohio State's 3 of their 4 toughest games are on the road. The Notre Dame game, the Wisconsin game, in the Michigan game. The Wisconsin game, haven't seen the line on that one yet, but don't sleep on that one as being a big game, being an easy game for Ohio State, because look, Wisconsin, their first year under Luke Fickell, and they're making a huge change in their offensive philosophy, what they're doing there. They're airing it out more. They got Tanner Mordecai, the transfer to play quarterback. It's not going to be the same Wisconsin offense you've seen in years past, although they do have a great running game still. The defense will still be stout. And don't underestimate how important Luke Fickell is going to be this year for Wisconsin, and how much of a change it could be in that program. It might not take right away, but I'm telling you, at Wisconsin will be a night game, I got to believe. And so that'll be a tough environment. Camp Randall is no joke. Okay. One of the things that I think that Ohio State fans, I don't know if you take it for granted or not as a whole, but when you see some of the things that are happening at other universities, and it should make you appreciate what Ohio State does, what Gene Smith does, and what Ohio State as a whole. Like when I always talk about Ohio State with their football, their football hiring, they have not had a catastrophic hire. Literally decades, they've not had a catastrophic hire. Woody Hayes was great, and I'm saying no one's perfect. I know Woody Hayes, his tenure ended in a way that most Buckeye fans wouldn't have wanted it to end. But so Woody Hayes, Earl Bruce was fantastic. I know he was 9-3 Earl, but still they did not take a huge drop off during the time he was his first year. They played for the national championship. Excuse me. Then you had John Cooper come on, and Cooper, I know, had his struggles with Ohio State and did not endear himself very well to the fans when he got here and said every game is as important as Michigan, which it isn't. And then some of the things he did in the media were just much different than Ohio State fans had seen their football coaches do. But he did a great job recruiting. He was a fantastic recruiter and really upped the level of recruiting for Ohio State. God, I'm going on here, but I didn't mean to go this long on it. Then you had Tressel. And obviously Tressel, we know what he did for Ohio State with his national championship and national championship game appearances and the dominance over Michigan. And when he was able to do to Ohio State, legendary on that. You had the 1 year of Luke Fickell, which was a fractured year, not his fault. But then you bring in Urban Meyer. He had so much success. And now Ryan Day. So other programs, other universities have had catastrophic hires. Michigan certainly did with Brady Hoke, with Rich Rod. Those were catastrophic hires. Alabama's had some. Georgia's had some. USC, Texas, Oklahoma. Oklahoma had Gary Gibbs. Oklahoma, all these different schools had catastrophic hires on the football side. Ohio State avoided that. Why do I bring that up now? Because of what's going on at Northwestern. And Pat Fitzgerald, the winningest coach in history at Northwestern, the most successful one, the one who made Northwestern relevant, although they were 1-11 last year, has been fired now after this hazing scandal. And the fact that did he know about it, did he not know about it? Either way, he should be fired. If he knew about it, Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach of Northwestern, there's all these reports of hazing going on, and some of like a sexual misconduct nature at Northwestern. And they initially announced they were going to suspend him for 2 weeks without pay, which is stupid because the 2 weeks they were suspending him, it's a dead recruiting period. There's no there's no practices going on. No one's there in the building. It's a stupid thing. Then as soon as that came out, the Northwestern student newspaper produced a report where they had talked to a couple of anonymous players about some of the things that went on there. And then the Northwestern football team wrote a letter on behalf of the team that said, like, we stand by our coach. This stuff didn't happen. It was signed like the entire Northwestern team. No way in hell the entire Northwestern team put their thoughts into that and agreed to doing that. But whatever. Anyway, then the Northwestern president comes out and says, we may have made a mistake, and I'm going to reevaluate the potential for what the suspension, what the punishment should be. Northwest School president's name is Michael Schill, by the way. He came out and said, it's possible we made a mistake. And then there's another report that came out with a player with his name on it who also said these things happened. Fitzgerald knew about it. Fitzgerald originally denied knowing anything about it. And then somebody produced a picture of a whiteboard in the locker room that showed, like middle of the locker room, that showed specific players or drills they had to do as part of their hazing. So all this comes out, and then Fitzgerald gets fired, rightfully so. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with Fitzgerald as far as if he's going to be fired. They fired him with cause, and so I'm sure he's going to fight that. We'll see if he's going to buy out on that. But Northwestern football is in dread. And again, 1-11 season, not being any better. And you're going to see some players leaving now. They can now leave in the transfer portal if your coach is gone for any other reason. I know the transfer portal is closed, but if the coach is gone, you can transfer immediately. The problem is they got to find a spot, a team that will take them, because a lot of teams have their rosters finalized or close to it, and there's not a lot of room to take on even the best players at Northwestern. And so that's bad enough as it is. Then Northwestern fired their baseball coach, Jim Foster, and for another situation involving bullying and hazing. And they also called it a toxic environment within the program, according to sources that talk to ESPN. So they now fired a baseball coach after 1 year at Northwestern, that this AD they have hired, now he has to fire him a year later, a little more than a year later, because of these same kind of things going on in the baseball program. Northwestern Athletics, they're in trouble. This is an awful look for them. And again, I don't think, how do I want to put this? We should never be surprised anymore when we hear about the hazing thing going on at schools, because the women's hockey program in Harvard also had to fire their head coach because of a similar thing where there were players being forced to do inhumane things as part of a hazing ritual within that program. That's women's hockey in the Ivy League. Northwestern, one of the leading academic institutions in the country, has this stuff going on. There's no longer a place for any of this kind of stuff. And I never understood how or why coaches would let it go on, and how somebody would step up and say, look, this is not going to help our team. It doesn't help your team. The hazing does not help your team. There are bonding things you can do. And look, I get the whole thing about rookies carrying the bags in the NFL and things like, maybe even freshmen having to do the laundry, whatever, things like that. But it's illegal. There's no way it builds trust within the team. It's cruel. Some of these things that have happened, some of the sexual things that have happened to players from various sports at various levels of competition, it just makes no sense. And I don't mean to sound like the old guy there, but it's stupid to continue hazing things like that. It does not help the team. I've never heard a player say, you know what, I really got better from having to do that naked ice skate dive that they made the women's hockey team do. Some of the freshmen, some of the underclassmen had to dive on the ice naked, and they had injuries that are just ridiculous. So things like that, I don't understand the place of it, and I'm glad the Northwestern's cracking down on this now. But shame on Pat Fitzgerald. If he knew about it, he should have been fired. If he didn't know about it, why in the hell did you not know about it if you're the football coach of that team? They're paying you a lot of money. They're paying a lot of these coaches a lot of money. You need to have an eye on things that are going on. I'm not saying you can be held accountable 24/7 on what they're doing, but you should know if stuff like this is going on. And shame on other players for not stepping up and saying something before this. So, off my soapbox now. Tennessee, the football program, fined Tennessee's athletic department. The football program avoided a bowl ban, but they were fined more than $8 million after they had more than 200 individual infractions during the former coach was there, Jeremy Pruitt, during there. Over 200 infractions. They're on probation for 5 years, and again, fined $8 million. So, but there's other penalties that, according to ESPN, that will make it closer to $9 million, and also they're going to lose a total of 28 scholarships. That won't be all at one time. It'll be spread out a little bit, but they also have to go through and probably vacate some wins and some individual records. But all that is under the former the former coach and Jeremy Pruitt. And so over 200 infractions. There were things like benefits that things were like Pruitt and his wife, it says, made cash payments to players' families. So, and now Pruitt's on like a show cause thing where if he ever gets hired again, which he shouldn't, if he ever does though, he'll be suspended for the first year that he's there. So awful. This kind of stuff goes on still, and it's so hard now in the college football life, the college football world, to get busted for anything. Somehow Tennessee found a way to do it. And again, this is what makes, I know Ohio State's had issues in the past in the Jim O'Brien time here, even at the end of the Randy Ayers situation, and obviously the way the Tressel thing ended. I know it's happened, but it hasn't happened for a while now. Ryan Day's running a great program here at Ohio State. Gene Smith's doing a great job. And through things like this, I'm just happy Ohio State's where they're at. All right, that's it for the Buckeye Blitz. Thanks for tuning in. Again, follow me on Twitter @FitHappens. I'm Jeff Thidoff. Get back to you soon. Lots to get into. Football right around the corner.